Why do so many church leaders feel stuck, like their teams are falling short of their collective calling? In this episode, we're diving into the unseen barriers that hold pastors, ministry leaders, and their teams back from reaching their full potential. Is it fear, burnout, misalignment, or something deeper? If you've ever felt like there's a ceiling on your team's leadership, or you want to help them break through, it's time to listen in.
All right, Frank, I'm going to volunteer you to get us started here.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Man, I am passionate about this conversation we're having today. I've seen too many leaders get recruited to great churches and great nonprofits, and the senior leaders are so excited. They're joining the team, and then weeks or months or maybe a couple of years later, they're like, they never really hit where I thought they were going to go. It felt like they hit a lid, or actually they're operating even below what I thought that lid would be. And I'll never forget this moment we had at Elevation. Our team was growing. We were catching some really good momentum, and we were starting to feel that same thing. We thought we were recruiting well internally, externally. The team was growing and building, and we couldn't quite figure out what it was that was causing people to get near their potential, but then many not to kind of break through to even exceed our expectations or even meet our expectations. And one of the things we found was there's this phrase, clarity is kind. Setting expectations is a really good thing. And as the org changes and as roles change, continuing to provide additional clarity is really important. So I can think specifically of one individual that comes to mind that we had brought them in. I had kind of stuck my neck out there. I'm like, this is the guy. This guy's going to do great stuff. And it wasn't very long before he was operating below his potential. And I kept having potential conversations with him. You can do more. I believe in you. What seems to be the challenge? And it took me a little while to diagnose a problem that I had that was causing them to be limited. What I was doing over and over, and hopefully I'm growing through this, hopefully I'm getting better at this, but what I found over and over again is that when somebody had a certain level of authority, when we would empower them and they would at some point cross that line of authority and have a family meeting to get some correction on hey, you should involve somebody else, or you should have done this, or whatever it may be, that level of correction, well, it causes many leaders to recoil a little bit. And when they recoil, even if they're good with the church, even if they're good with the way everything was handled, they don't want to make that mistake again. So what they do is they no longer lead at the level of authority that's been empowered to them, but actually operate below that because they don't want that feeling. They don't want that experience of crossing that line again. And so how we handle those moments when they operate outside their authority can oftentimes be a massive limiter to their potential. Well, what happens is this downward spiral, right? So they've crossed their level of empowerment and authority. We've had to have that family meeting to kind of correct it and say, hey, you really should involve so-and-so, or kind of stepped on somebody's toes here. They go below their potential. Now they're being conservative in their leadership and not operating in their full authority. So then we're looking at them going, gosh, they crossed the line and now they're just a dud. Now they're not doing anything, Jim. And so it becomes this frustration. What I realized was how we handle those moments. How we handle those moments where they operate outside their authority and we do those conversations around correction are critical, because if not, we will end up with a team full of leaders that are operating below their potential and capacity. And that was on me. I thought I handled it well, but I didn't handle it well enough because now I had a big team that was operating below their ability.
Wow. Well, I have one. You're going to have to stick with me because I have to set it up for you. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be exactly like that, but I think it's going to help you see that this is about potential.
Yeah.
So this is back when I was in the marketplace.
Okay.
So I was in a public corporation. I got passed over for a promotion. Mm-hmm. A promotion that I was obviously qualified for. Now, I have told you back in my earlier days, I always thought I was the smartest person in the room. This is unrelated to that. I was legitimately qualified for this promotion, and I got passed over. Mm-hmm. So I sat on it for a couple of days, and I went to the head of our unit, and I was really taking a chance because I was going to go and just going to vent.
Yeah.
And I said, all the reasons why I thought I was qualified. I was really, I don't know if that I used the word offended, but I'm sure I came across as being offended and insulted that I didn't get it. He sat there, Frank, and he did not say a word while I just was on this bender. I was just ranting. And he said, and I stopped to take a breath. I know it's hard to believe. I kind of was going in and he's like, hey, is there anything else that you need to get on the table here? And I said, no, sir, I think that's it. And then the next thing that he said made me even madder. He said, there is no question that you were the right man for the promotion.
Yeah.
Which now flags, then why didn't I get it?
Right.
He said, the problem, Jim, is this. If we move you up, there's a gap because you don't have anyone to replace yourself.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah.
And I realized, wow, I have not been recognizing the full potential of the people underneath me. I've never been threatened by people who are better than me. I know that's a thing for some people. That's never been a thing for me. I've always hired people that I thought were as good as, if not better than me. And yet I hadn't and their names were Bill and Cindy. So I remember this.
Yeah.
This is a minute ago, and I still remember. Bro, when I got back to my office, I told my secretary, we called them secretaries back then, not assistants.
Yeah.
I said, get Bill and Cindy in here. And I got them in, and I shut the door, and I read them the riot act.
Oh, wow.
And I said, here's the way this works. One of you or both of you are going to have my job within 6 months, or you're leaving the organization.
Wow. Hey-o.
Because I just got passed over for a promotion because I didn't have my replacement, and I'm going to have my replacement.
Yeah.
This is never, ever going to happen to me again. And it didn't. And both of them rose.
Yeah.
And I had 2 replacements. One of them replaced me in that department. One of them went to another department, and they both flourished and thrived long after that.
Jim, I absolutely love that story, and I love the fact that it reveals something that I think will come up in different aspects of this episode. Sometimes you have to give a clear path on where you're asking people to go.
Right.
So they didn't know that you were looking for them to do that role. And so you're frustrated going, why couldn't you step? They did after that meeting. They did after that meeting, but look how they responded.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes we're getting there frustrated going, why aren't they stepping up? Why aren't they getting better at this? Why aren't they doing this? Because we haven't told them clearly. Oftentimes when leaders speak to potential, and I've been notorious for this. I'm trying to get better at it, Jim, and I invite you and anybody else to help me correct this one. I have had a improvement plan for staff that I see potential in that's very simple. 2 words, do better. And that is not a very good plan, Jim. What are they struggling with? What could they do better at? Where are we seeing their weak spots? Maybe they're doing a really good job at communicating from the stage, but not so good at communicating in their emails, or they're doing great at communicating with the youth, but not with the parents. Whatever it may be, we've got to be a little more clear on what we want, what we see for them, what we want them to get to, and what they need to change in order to get there. And it's not just do better.
Yeah. What I love about this conversation, Frank, is that I think what we're flagging is that when our people don't reach their potential, some of that probably is on them, but a lot of it's probably on us.
Absolutely.
And we're the ones who can set them free and help them find their full potential. So I love that we're having this conversation.
Looking for inspiration in your inbox? Sign up for the Next Sunday newsletter. Every 2 weeks, we'll bring you ideas to bridge generations, spark generosity, and lead meaningful change in the church. Consider it your church leadership field guide. Subscribe now at generis.com/podcast and just scroll down till you see the newsletter sign up. You're going to love it.
Remember, what happens next Sunday could change everything.